40 kilometers northeast of Mexico City lies a mystery. Its name comes from the Aztecs, the birthplace of the gods. But they didn't found this city, they discovered it. In the 1400s, when they looked at these ruins, they gave them names, but they didn't understand them. Because Teotihuacan doesn't speak. There's writing on it, but it's undecipherable. They have kings, but their names are lost. And today, 2,000 years later, we are still asking the same question: who were they? In 100 BC, while the Roman Republic was being established, and the Qin dynasty was rising, something else was happening here. In the middle of the valley, there was no river, no harbor, but someone was building one of the world's greatest cities. No wheels, no iron, but 100,000 men and a plan, a terrible plan. The plan for Teotihuacan is a message, a 2-kilometer-long boulevard, the way of the dead. Why the dead? Because along this road, there are small hills, graves, but who is in them? We don't know. The tombs have been plundered, perhaps kings, perhaps priests, perhaps victims. But this path is not just a street, it is an axis between the earth and the sky. In the middle of the road, the Pyramid of the Sun, 65 meters high, 225 meters base. In terms of volume, it is larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. But it's different. This pyramid is made of limestone and volcanic tuff, and it's not hollow. In the 1970s, a tunnel was discovered. It's 100 meters long. From underground towards the very center of the pyramid. But what's in the center? A tomb? A treasure? No, a room. And in that room, in 2015, mercury was found. Tons of mercury, liquid metal, for the journey of souls, for the passage of the dead. Mercury is poison, but it is also immortality. Chinese emperors also drank mercury to become immortal. They died in Teotihuacan. Mercury is perhaps the same thing, a quest for immortality. But for whom? For a king, or for the city itself? At the end of the road, the Pyramid of the Moon, smaller, older, more mysterious. 12 platforms in front of it, 12 a number, 12 moons, 12 planets, 12 gods. We don't know. But we know that this pyramid is more sacred than the Pyramid of the Sun. Because here, there are sacrifices, human sacrifices, children, animals, all for a ritual. every 12 years, every 52 years, at the 0 point of the sacred calendar. We don't know, but the bones speak, and blood has seeped into the stones. The pyramids are fascinating, but the real Teotihuacan was here. Love and Tetatla, Sakawala. The names are modern, but the buildings are 2,000 years old. Multi-story apartment buildings. The first apartment buildings, perhaps each one housed 60 to 100 people, families, craftsmen, merchants, and on the wall of every room, paintings. Red, green, yellow. There's no wall without a jaguar, because the jaguar is power, and the feathered serpent, and the feathered snake. Quetzalcoatl, sky and wind, knowledge and death at the same time. Teotihuacan is a manufacturing center, obsidian, volcanic glass, the sharpest blade in the world, 100 times sharper than surgical steel, and this obsidian is everywhere. In Guatemala, in Honduras, all over Mexico. Trade, but how? No wheels, no animals. People carried things on their backs, 100 kilometers, 500 kilometers, and what did they get in return? Jade from Guatemala, 1,000 kilometers, feathers from the Amazon, seashells from the Pacific. This city is the center of a network, and this network has enveloped the continent. But Teotihuacan isn't just rich. Everything is planned. The streets are like cages. Every block is a square. Water, sewage, perhaps. 2,000 years ago, and there are no portraits of kings, no monuments. How was this city governed? The priestly class? A military aristocracy? Or a system we don't understand? Perhaps the first megacity, the first anonymous power. 1,000 kilometers to the south, another world, the Maya. Tikal city-states, hieroglyphic writing, kings. But in 378 AD, something changes in Tikal. A new dynasty, a new architecture, and this architecture comes from Teotihuacan, Stela 31, stone monument. On it, a figure, Teotihuacan-style clothing, black glasses, the black-eyed squirrel. Its name is the black-eyed squirrel, and from that day on, Tikal grows up. It's fighting, it's expanding. Did Teotihuacan influence the Maya, or did it invade them? In Guatemala, at Caminal-Ju, there's the Teotihuacan pyramid, the same style, the same technique. In Honduras, in Copan, there is Teotihuacan obsidian. This is not just trade. This is power, perhaps an embassy. Perhaps a prince ascended the throne through marriage. Perhaps an army came and changed a dynasty. But the result is the same. The influence of Teotihuacan stretches thousands of kilometers. This is not a city, it is an empire. Silent, unwritten, but real. And here's the interesting thing. The Maya wrote. They recorded everything. But about Teotihuacan, they wrote almost nothing. It was simply, that day, people came from faraway lands. Faraway lands, 1,000 kilometers, and then, silence. Why was Teotihuacan so frightening, or so secretive? Around 550 AD, maybe 600 AD, it's not certain, but something is happening. The city center is burning. The temples are being destroyed. The temple of the feathered serpent in particular. Symbols are being broken. Statues are being shattered. Is this an external attack, or an internal rebellion? Climate change, drought, Lake Texcoco is drying up, agriculture is collapsing, 100,000 people are going hungry, or the obsidian trade is stopping, alternatives are emerging, power is disappearing. But this isn't a sudden end, it's slow. 100 years people are leaving, apartments are being emptied. Some are going to Maya lands. Tutikal. Tokopan. They're taking their knowledge, their beliefs with them. Some are going up into the mountains, to the high plains. And the city is being forgotten. Right? No. Because 600 years later, the Aztecs arrive. And they don't forget. They call it the birthplace of the gods, and they build temples here for their gods, layer upon layer, history upon history. The 1900s. Archaeology begins. De Porfirio Diaz era. Mexico is modernizing, and Teotihuacan becomes a tourist destination. But science progresses slowly. The 1970s, the tunnel is discovered. 1980s, radar. More structures beneath the city. 2003, a new chamber beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. 2015, Mercury, and still, something new every year. The 2020s, LiDAR, remote sensing, and we still can't decipher the writing. We still don't know the names of the kings. Today, Teotihuacan is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Every year, it receives 4 million visitors, but still, the same mystery remains. Who were they? Why did they go? And, perhaps most importantly, what can we learn from them? The collapse of megacities, climate change, resource depletion, social inequality. All of these existed 2,000 years ago, and we're still asking the same questions. Teotihuacan is silent, but its stones speak. Every step is a message. Every wall tells a story. And we just listen. 2,000 years later, we're still listening. Because some places are outside of time. Some questions must remain unanswered. Perhaps that is why it is still there, waiting. The birthplace of the gods, and perhaps of us too. Teotihuacan is still being excavated. Every new discovery updates this film. The city was aligned. Mercury discovered in 2015. Everything was deliberately analyzed. The writing system remains a mystery. Everything followed a deliberate plan. And perhaps never figure out should remain mysteries why they were built. Here they are, pyramids beneath the aligned stars. This city exists. There's secrets forever hidden, but no one knows who built it. One of the greatest mysteries in human history. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.